The Washington Wizards went winless throughout the entire month of November, did not win a single game, and even for a team that is rebuilding, that is really unacceptable in terms of what we're seeing on the court from these guys. Because you still have some pieces to build around, like Alex Sarr, like Bilal Coulibaly. There are some promising pieces on this Wizards team, but ultimately it's probably really the guys up front, the real top options on this team, that are holding this team back. And obviously they don't have many aspirations this year. So going winless isn't the worst thing in the world throughout an NBA month. But it's still not a good sign in a season as long as the NBA to where you're going to have so many games packed into 1 month and you can't pull out a single one of them. It's certainly not a positive for the Washington Wizards. And really, it's only up from here. But I think the issues with this team really come from the top down in terms of how the workload is on this team and kind of the maturity of the two top guys here in Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole. These are guys who are not necessarily winning players. Kyle Kuzma does have a ring. Same thing with Jordan Poole. But they are very different players from what they were back in the day, back on those Lakers teams, back on those Golden State Warriors teams, in terms of how they impact the game. Kyle Kuzma was once a very important piece on that championship team in the bubble for the Los Angeles Lakers. And that was a team that was led by a star frontcourt duo in LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And Kyle Kuzma, as a wing, was able to benefit off of that because of the defensive attention that was going to be focused mainly on LeBron and AD, and rightfully so. And then for Jordan Poole, there was a time where they were saying he was the third splash brother behind Steph Curry, behind Klay Thompson. And there were moments where it definitely looked like it. He had a great playoff run. Though I don't recall if that was the year they won the championship or the year before. And there were many games. There was a stretch where Steph Curry was out and Jordan Poole was asked to be the starting guard for that team. And he went out and he produced, absolutely. And he kept the Warriors in the thick of things. But now they go to Washington, and this is a team that doesn't have very high aspirations whatsoever, that is very much into a rebuild, especially with the loss of Bradley Beal in recent years. And even, John Wall before that. This is a team that for very long now has not even seen a hint of the playoffs and not even really been trying to do so. And so Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole, they go to this team, and they have the green light. And they're going to get their shots up. And it's not going to be perceived as a detriment to the team because the team isn't going anywhere in the first place. But the problem with that is now that you do have young guys that I would like to see develop a little bit more, that I would like to see you place a little bit more trust into. Jordan Poole's first season in Washington was not very good, to say the least. A lot of people had high expectations for him going into it because this is a guy that we know can score. And now he's going to have the green light over in Washington, but he went out and he had a really inefficient first season. Ultimately, it's been better this year. Kyle Kuzma has been the opposite. He's having a down year. But the Washington Wizards, my point with this here, is that they have some promising young players on that team now. And ultimately, these young players at this point in their careers, like Bilal Coulibaly and like Alex Sarr, they aren't going to lead you to the playoffs by any means. However, in my opinion, I think it does hinder their development. It also creates a negative culture when you have guys like Kyle Kuzma, like Jordan Poole, who are really just here to get shots up, enjoy their time in the NBA, and not really contribute to what matters most for the team and what is ultimately best for the team and its future. I think Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole are just not good fits in terms of future for this team, and they can be solid trade assets, especially Kyle Kuzma. I think he does have a place in the league, even if he's having a down year. Jordan Poole, I don't know what his fit is, especially on a team that would want to win some games. But I don't think they necessarily fit in here. Because even if you want to talk about the culture of it, you look at a guy like Alex Sarr, he didn't want to go to the Atlanta Hawks. He wanted to go to the Wizards and get his shots up. Because that is the culture that is around this team right now. That you go there and you have any semblance of some offensive talent, you're going to have the green light. They're going to let you take your shots. And credit to Alex Sarr, for having that idea of what he believes is going to be best for his development as a player. But ultimately, to become a true winning NBA player, you do have to learn how to play within a system as well. And the Washington Wizards, they don't have a lot of that. It kind of reminds me of the Houston Rockets back in the days with Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green leading that team. It looked like more of an AAU team night in, night out in terms of having a true game plan, a true scheme. There wasn't much of that. And I see kind of the same thing in this Wizards team right now. And ultimately, that's harmful for the development of these guys. No matter if they do want to get their shots up, a guy like Alex Sarr. Ultimately, if you are going to win at the highest level in the NBA, be the best version of you that you can be, you are going to have to play within the system at the very least. Now, some players say can arguably be the system like a Nikola Jokic, but that is the top of the top, and most players are not going to reach that level. And ultimately, Alex Sarr has a lot of time ahead of him in the NBA to learn and grow as a player, and he absolutely will. But I think the situation that is going on in Washington right now is still not a good one for him, because this team does set the precedent that if you got any offensive talent, yeah, we're going to trust you. And ultimately, it doesn't allow you to fine-tune yourself as an NBA player. Yes, you can get in-game experience quite a bit more than you might in a place like Atlanta, where Alex Sarr was, originally projected to go as the number one pick. But having a situation of continuously losing and just getting your shots up regardless, that's not a good mindset to have, and you can develop bad habits that way. I think ultimately Alex Sarr will turn out as a fine product, but I don't think the Wizards are putting him in the best situation by any means. And for Bilal Coulibaly, obviously he is a great defender, but ultimately with him, he's put in a situation where his contributions aren't valued as much. Because what he brings to the table most is his defensive presence, and his offense comes second to that. And this is a team that has mainly focused on the offensive talents of its top options, and a team that doesn't look to win many games. And so as a result, Bilal Coulibaly's role in the team is diminished, because if this is a team that was really going out there looking to win games in all the ways possible, that's going to include quite a bit of defense and having really good role players around you, and that's what Bilal Coulibaly can be right now. And he's on an environment where he isn't really allowed to do that and perform to his full capabilities either. Ultimately, these guys are very, very young, but I think the environment in Washington right now and the culture around it is not a good place, and especially for the development of young players who can be prone to developing bad habits. Because that's the biggest thing here, right? Ultimately, they're going to have plenty of time to get better as players, but bad habits can be hard to break sometimes. And, just the culture and mindset that this team can ingrain in you from a young age, developing in the NBA, trying to get better each and every day. They expect you as a player, as a young rookie player, you expect them to develop you to become the best NBA player that you can be, because ultimately that is the expectation. And you're going to live with what they're telling you as coaches, because you haven't got to see that in a different environment yet, what a successful NBA franchise might be doing. You're just seeing how the Wizards are doing it, and you think that might be the right way, and you can cultivate bad habits. And ultimately, I don't think it's going to matter much in the long run. These guys have plenty of time, but bad habits could be a bad sign in the future. And just coming from the culture of this team right now, that went winless throughout the entire month of November as a result of it. They'll be fine in the long run, but this environment for Washington is not the best place for their development by any means.